This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
The aftermath of every social revolution brings about change. Cultural norms and landmarks shift as our minds and hearts expand beyond the familiar. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose in the land of the living. This is our time to renew, revive, and restore the hope lost to the busyness of life. This is our time to dig again and rebuild from the storms of our past on a solid footing that holds. Welcome to The Foundation.
The Foundation. Foundation. Foundation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant and your company. The Foundation is here live and in full effect on Monday, March 6th. So happy to be in your company today. I hope you had a beautiful weekend. I don't know what you guys did, but I did a great deal of relaxation. I tried with the amount of children that I had. I did my best. And my baby doll, like she's creeping and she's starting to, like, she won't talk now. She need to calm down. She's doing way too much, right? Jumping all over me, doing her thing, right? So she's out there and she's being able to have a good time. I had a good weekend this weekend, guys. No Kong salad for my wife. I think we're going to deal with that, though. We're definitely going to be able to deal with that. I hope you did something special with your sweet thing in the can. Hope you went over to Byron's, over at Tiki Hut, did something very special for, the love of your life or that person that you kind of cling to at this particular moment. I don't know. I mean, you guys make decisions. I watched something the other day, February 14th. She said, what are you doing for, I think it was Eyewitness News. Someone who recorded this person, they ran up to her and palmed her. Say, what are you going to be doing for Valentine's? She said, well, my man is leaving me every Valentine's Day. So, which is wild, right? So I'm hoping that you didn't make those kind of decisions and you did something special with your loved one over the weekend. Well, I hope you pick up your papers today. Make sure you pick up your Guardian newspaper. It's 12 o'clock, but you can still be able to kind of get caught up on the news. It's a warning on Haiti. The UN agency says that worsening security crisis has global implications, and you read the story that starts to talk about. So the country's security and development institution designate a significant international response will be required, including large-scale relief assistance and a stabilization or peace support operations. So make sure you pick up those particular things. But like we said, we made a commitment to you guys that this week, on March 8th, we're going to be celebrating and identifying International Women's Day. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to talk about those things. But before I do that, I want to thank the persons that continue to support me. You know that on Thursday is Small Business Thursday, so we're going to be able to get into that and talk about those particular things. You know the numbers you can get into. But before we do that, we do have a great deal of persons that's supporting the show, and I want to read something here for you. It's Mobile Garage Fleets. If you think your fleet cost is too high, give us a call today. Mobile Garage Fleet Solution has dash cams to reduce vehicle damages. It says data loggers to reduce fuel costs, unnecessary driver, and vehicle wear and tear. Give us a call at 422-4575 or visit us at mobilegaragefleets.com. That's mobilegaragefleets.com to see how you can lower your fleet costs now. That's my good friend Byron. Make sure you check him out, man. He's doing amazing stuff. Always like to be able to help support local businesses. I seek to kind of expand what they're doing. Give him a call again, like I said, 422-4575. Now, we made a commitment to you guys. I made a commitment to you. I said that we've done this show before. We've sat in this kind of a space. And, Howard Ben Dazi is! Howard Ben! It's like so many people, right? And I've said to you that Dazi was coming, but she is extremely busy. Talk to me. Extremely busy in all that she does. But today, and it just so happened how life works out, right? To have a conversation about the next tier, the next step, the next generation of women and their strategic involvement. March 8th is when we're going to be able to identify International Women's Day. I really did my best to try to get Miss Janet Boswick, but she says, Howard, I can't do it. I'm taking these things. So we're going to find someone real special to really have a good conversation with. And we really wanted to get her to identify some of the conversations that she had when she received her most recent award. But I know that there's so many persons who can contribute to that. And I want to be able to identify that, to have a good conversation with you guys on Wednesday. Today, Monday, we got Dazzy in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, give me some claps, something for Dazzy, because she up in the house now. Let's see if you can find the thing, right? Give me some claps for Dazzy. Dazzy up in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, Daz Lightborn better be up in the house today. It is so wonderful to have you with us, my dear.
It is great to be here. There you
No,
go.
that's the drums. Give me the claps, man. Give me the claps for Dazzy.
I like the drums too.
You like the drums?
He can look for the claps. He can get the claps. It's good to be here,
Dazzy,
Howard.
it's so wonderful to have you in the house today. I feel like
It's very nostalgic.
it's very nostalgic.
But I'm
isn't it?
sitting where you remember?
Yes. No, because it's cold as hell in here, right?
It is cold.
But it's really good to have you with us.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of dive into that. Tell everybody how you've been and say something to the people they haven't heard you in a while. I know some. If you get on the radio, make sure you shout out my cousin. Go ahead.
Listen, I have a whole list, right? But I can only remember one.
It's way too much. Go
Right?
ahead.
But no, Howard has been great. I'm in private sector and kind of took a little, break from the radio. But it's persons like you who can get me back on, every now and again. But
Look at
yeah,
the decency in her voice.
I'm trying to be very
I'm
diplomatic.
in the private sector now, Howard.
That's the best way to describe it, right? I don't know how else to describe it. So, but it's great to be here. A lot has changed. I lost both of my parents basically at the close of the show.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a marker, I would say, in life and certain transitions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to be here.
It's hard to be able to do that. I know that, and I remember that. That was a hard time.
Yeah, Howard, you were right there for I think most of it. So
And it was hard to be able to do that. But I'm so happy that you're here. You're in good spirits. You're looking great
thank you.
and strong and ready to be able to do these things. I suppose that the private sector is doing you well.
I'm having a good time. Shout out to my team. I know some of them are listening now. It's a
they
good
are?
team. Oh yeah, for sure. They never miss you, Howard. They never miss you.
Really?
So, they love you. So
Even when they're talking foolishness, it's crazy.
I think that's the highlight actually. And sometimes against my knowledge, I get these highlights,
Really?
right?
Yeah, you said
Things
me
that I don't
something
want to know, right?
I didn't even know I said something.
Right. And I have to confront you with that. I'm like, Howard, did you actually say this today?
I did say it. And I ain't gonna lie. I said the thing, right?
in front of your mother in the studio. Come on
Yeah,
now,
right
you gotta
there.
behave yourself.
But let's talk about this. You've always had sort of introspect, like
Yes.
a specific and a unique perspective based upon your experiences, what you would have read over the years. Guys, if you don't remember, Dazzy and I did Rush Hour.
Right.
And I think it was the hottest show on Guardian. Talk to me.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely, hands down. I don't think there's
Somebody give an
anyone.
amen, right?
I'll give you the amen.
Praise God.
There's no one that I think could say that was not the
Listen,
hottest.
big boy action. Right, Dwight? Talk to me,
And
right?
I will say, Howard, in doing travels, Atlanta, different places, the show is known. People from
Across the seas?
across the seas
bananas,
know
Dazzy.
us and listen. And it's just the most random thing, right? I talk and someone says, you wouldn't by any chance.
Be Dazzy.
And then they always just ask,
Where Howard?
where Howard? I'm like, listen,
He's in a suitcase.
he has his own life,
Yeah,
right?
he stuffed Howard in the suitcase. He's in the back trunk.
Right, he has
Where
his
the
own
hell do you
life.
think Howard?
Correct. So that's always the second question. But before we jump back to the point you were saying, I have to give this shout out to Sweeting, and that's taxi number 1293 out of the airport. And he is doing an amazing job. And I have to shout him out because listener to the show, Howard. So he's
Sweeting, what's happening with you, my brother? I pray that all is well with you.
excellent. 1293. He's an
1293.
excellent host and ambassador for the Bahamas.
Really?
Excellent.
He got a suit and necktie and all and everything.
I don't remember if he had a necktie. It's hot. Howard, come on. It's
They got
hot.
on a polo
It's
shirt
hot.
with a necktie.
Very
Sir, you're
professional,
doing
though.
way too much. Okay?
Very professional.
Doing way too much, right?
So I
no,
must
we
shout
gotta
him
wear a
out.
necktie. That's why I put it on my t-shirt.
Right.
What are you doing, sir? You need to calm
Right.
down, right? It's a beautiful day, though, Dazzy. This
Yes.
week we're celebrating International Women's Week.
We are.
And I didn't think of anybody better to really have a conversation from a youthful perspective to talk about where we are now, where women are now, And there's kind of an idea whether or not we should yield. Some significant stuff came up in the papers today. It's just amazing how it happens, right? Like I said, guys, make sure that you pick up your Guardian newspaper. But, just reading the Tribune, we saw that the Charge d'Affaires, in her sort of a contribution to the U.S., there was let me see if I can read this properly. Let's see if I can tell you. The International Black Women's Public Policy Institute, the IBWPPI 14th Annual Board of Directors Retreat in Freeport, Grand Bahama between March 2nd and 3rd. They just had something, and she said something significant, Dazzy. I want to start it off with that. Ms. Pitts said that every time a woman takes political power in the Bahamas, she helps the government reflect the country itself. And that is truly representing democracy, what is representative democracy is all about. And then she goes on to say that do not wait around for men to grant women equality under the Constitution. They've had 50 years to do it, and it hasn't happened. Don't wait for men to outlaw marital rape, as I heard so many men do in the Bahamian radios. I think this is funny, right? She says, I think this is hilarious, right? She said, don't wait for men to outlaw marital rape, as I heard so many men say on Bahamian radio that there is no rape in marriage. Do not wait for men to give women reproductive rights and control over their health or their own bodies. They won't do it. Strong words.
That is very strong.
Strong words, Zazie.
That's very strong.
Talk to me about, because I started this sort of a wicked concept, looking all the way back to 1949 with Mary Ingram, as it relates to the women's suffrage movement.
Okay.
Yeah. And being able to take that particular course and just sort of looking of the gathering, right? I'm one of the persons who believe that there's a difference between interdependence and the majority rule that we fought for and this sort of independence that we were given. Talk to me about this idea of whether or not post-suffrage movement have women sort of yielded their strength back to men after they've gotten certain things that they demanded back in the time. Talk to me about it, Dazzy.
So here's my ideas on this, because Howard, when I look at any topic, I try to look at it from the perspective of not just a woman that, lives in daily society, but also from a historical standpoint and a lot of narratives that are on social media. So what tends to happen with any particular topic I've noticed is humans have a tendency to overcorrect, and we go through these cycles, right? So you would have a period in time where, it's women's rights, that's a correction. Then it goes to the extreme. This is just human nature, right? It goes to the extreme. Then when it gets to the extreme, it's like, wait, this is not necessarily what we want. And then there's an overcorrection in the other extreme. And you tend to see those cycles go back and forth since the beginning of time. So I feel where we are now, and this is just based on narratives I see every day on social media, I do a lot of data reading and collection, is that we are in another period of overcorrection. We're in another period of overcorrection, because what is happening now is a lot of women are divided, and there's a lot of extreme polarity in their views. So you have the view that, so this is one camp, right? That they believe, women's equality, feminism, women's rights. It's very, very strong in that direction, in the sense that, they see women's role as being able to do any and everything a man can do. And they are very hard focused on these issues. And that has its place. Then you have the other camp on the other side, where they believe in femininity, the fact that, patriarchal society is wonderful, the fact that the way how things are set up now is not necessarily in women's best interest in a lot of ways. And they are anti the feminism movement, right? And so you have these extreme polarities in the way how a lot of women think. Then you have some women that are in the middle, right? And this is a very small minority, because it's very difficult not to become completely polarized, especially if you are participating in social media. So the camp that's in the middle says, okay, I can see where feminism has its place in giving women's rights, but I think that we may have overcorrected in other ways, and it's now starting to destroy the traditional nuclear family dynamic, which, despite a lot of persons saying that that's progress, you see the rates of mental health and a lot of the social dynamics that's going on in the world now, will lend to the fact that that is actually not so. So you do have these two extreme polarities, and then you have the folks in the middle. Now, where do I sit? We don't need to get into that, right? A lot of people, I think, know where I sit. I don't believe in any extreme. I lean a lot more towards the middle. But I think that the narrative that was put forth in the paper, while the intentions are great, I think that a lot of nuance is lost just because culturally where the Bahamas sits. And that's because, Howard, so we're here. We're about, 40 minutes away from Miami, right, on a flight. So we're very close to the Western world. We are in the Western world. We're very close to American culture. But a lot of our ideals aren't necessarily fully aligned with a lot of the narratives there, right? And I'm not talking about what is said publicly. I'm talking about what is said privately, because people can say a lot, Howard, and you know how this is. They will text you and say anything, and they'll say, but I can't call the radio and say that, right?
Don't call my name.
Don't call my name,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I think that, first of all, we need to decide if we're going to be hypocritical or true to what it is that we believe in, first of all, and what our beliefs are. I think that it's time that we have to actually have a definition for all of these before we start giving narratives, because the Bahamas has changed a lot. And the makeup of our people have changed as well, as well as what they believe in. So I think that it's almost impossible to answer these questions before we kind of assess who are we as people, where do we think we are, where do we want to go, and what are we prepared to do? Not just talk about, but what are we prepared to do to make sure that we create the society that we want with a lot of the factors that are going to be in place, as well as women's contributions.
I feel I just want to be decent as possible with this conversation, guys. I see your telephone calls coming through. Just give me a little 2 seconds. Let's see if we can get a good foundation on before we start to.
Yeah.
They excited. Oh my God, is that Dazzy?
They're passionate. Yeah.
Is that Dazzy? They're just calling back, right? Just give us 2 seconds to kind of get the foundation out, because I want to be able to have a significant conversation. I believe that there is disparity. There's a gulf that exists between the two generations of a younger, more progressive, stronger woman who has a desire and who can see some things based on her vantage point towards the future, and in comparison to the traditional, older, more seasoned, let's be decent, right? The more seasoned Bahamian woman who would have said that we've tried these particular things, they didn't work, but for us to be able to find progress, we've did some of the same things our mother's done. So in the comparison that you gave, I kind of surmise it into a left wing and a right wing.
Definitely.
Right? So the right wingers, with this kind of a concept and idea of feminism or femininity, right? Who rejects the idea, who commits themselves to the patriarchy, who understands the tradition in comparison to the left wing. And then this neutral space that exists in the middle.
Right.
There. The neutral space doesn't really exist, Dazzy. Talk to me. Let's talk about it.
I think
for the purposes of decency and in the spirit of correctness, right? Social correctness, right? in the spirit of being socially correct, right? Mm-hmm. And politically correct, we put a gray area here. But the truth is, if we're going to deal with this, there's only two wings: the right flank and the left, right?
Right.
If we look at this, and we look at the trajectory that our society has coursed, the path that we've taken, right? If we look numerically, the demographic of women that exist in this country, and we say, because I normally say to myself, why the hell that women don't find themselves in the position that they're moving forward to make some things happen? Why is there always a conversation about what men should do without understanding that you have a significant block in this country?
Because, Howard,
That's wild to me.
No, but Howard, there's a conflict between, so there's a conflict between who we think we are and who we actually are. And that happens from a country standpoint. That happens with us personally, intrapersonally. There's always who you think you are and who you actually are, right? Those two chasms. And when you have those two opposing things kind of align, you become what they call self-actualized. Only 2% of the population will ever reach self-actualization. Most of us will always have a lot of things that actually don't resonate with us that we actually do. So a lot of us, we will self-sabotage. We will work against our own interests. But in our minds, we think we're doing the right thing. Now look at the Bahamas and where we are. So we are a nation that's predominantly Black, right? And so in terms of a heritage of how we look at masculinity and femininity, right? You may have a lot of leaders that are men, right? But the way how Black societies typically run, and I'm not going to get into, the origin of it, but we all know what it is based on a matriarchal setup. So you have men, quote unquote, in charge, right? But are they really the ones who are in the society leading the charge? So I think that there's a separation that doesn't necessarily reflect the day-to-day. Because if you look at the stats about, single mothers or men not being in the home, the stats do not represent what you see sitting up in Parliament. And that's just what it is. So I don't care what we think we are, right? What does the data reflect? Because, I'm a big data person, statistics.
Okay, so let's go with
what
your
does
data.
The data reflect?
Let's go with your data. Let's go with DASI data.
Right.
The DASI's data, based upon our data, if we look at the demographics that exist, that pops up in the newspaper, whether it be The Guardian on a regular basis, whether it be The Tribune or any other paper that exists, anytime that there's any private sector that's identifying great work, this sort of commitment to company and growing in the organization, it's a plethora of women.
Yes.
It's a plethora of women. Okay?
Yes.
For those persons who are on the ground, when it comes to organization and identifying persons to be able to move forward for your campaign with feet on the ground, the amount of women that you have in your organization would blow your mind. In fact, the young children that actually show up, if I'm walking on the ground, let's say as a DNA candidate walking on the ground, mothers would come and say, Mr. Grant, I am bringing my son and my daughter to you. They will help you, right? Women always lead the charge in these particular spaces unless and until it's ascending to a position of power in this country, which blows my mind. Unless and until it gets to a position where you're moving towards politics in this country, then you step back and say, this is a man's world. This is a man's world.
Correct.
Right?
And we've seen that.
Yeah, but the reason you've seen it is because me, in my personal view, women have yielded to this idea. You never yield when your husband or significant other has the potential to do something on a private sector perspective. You know that you need that house and this man need to do some things. Every time it come down time to pillow talk, every time it comes down time, you would encourage him and encourage his spirit to move in a particular direction. So when it comes to instant gratification or being able to receive those tangibles socially, you move towards those things. But when it comes to this political shift and being able to attain power to make some things happen, you kind of step back and say, well, let men do that. It's a contrast. This is a problem for me.
It's a contradiction. It's definitely a contradiction.
You're contradicting yourself to me.
Right.
It's a contradiction.
But why is that? So why is that? Because what do we look at socially as leadership, as masculinity? What do we look at? Do we look at the traditional form of that? Or do we look at what's in pop culture, what's on social media? Because if you listen to our radios, and this is no offense to this is not talk radio, by the way, but if we listen to the music that is played on radios, what I would gather from listening to the music is masculinity is having a lot of children sprinkled all over the place, not protecting women, not providing for women, seeing women as, certain words that I can't say on here. These are the narratives that I hear in the music every day, right? So if children are raised in an environment where they're immersed in pop culture and socio narratives, right, or context, they will be raised with the ideas that to be a man in this society, you have to be quote unquote hard or tough or some other idea that's not necessarily the traditional view of masculinity in every other culture. It is what it is.
Dazzy, we got to dive deeper into
We have
this.
to.
You know why? Because I've always said to you that I think with your mindset, and I don't mean you as an individual, I'm talking about those up and coming women who can be able to decipher and see through the malarkey, through the social rhythm that existed prior, and understand that there's a course that we must chart to find true growth. We need those voices, those passions, those hearts to come and serve. I told you this before. Look at she's smiling now. The private sector is listening to her. She needs to stop it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick commercial break on 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant and your company with the foundation, sitting with Dazzy the Demi. Today we're having good conversations. We're kind of chopping it down. Let's take this quick commercial break and be right back after this.
Foundation.
Foundation.
The Foundation with Howard Grant is brought to you by Alive, Commonwealth Bank, Davinia Grill Foods, J.S. Johnson, Mobile Garage Technologies, Rev Bahamas, and Wendy's.
The Foundation. Foundation.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
The Grand Bahama News is available every Tuesday in the Nassau Guardian. Buy your local paper at Freeport convenience stores, Western Bakery, DeGregory's Fine Foods, and Bellevue Gifts. Want to reach your Grand Bahama customers? Then call Barefoot Marketing at 827-4578 or message them for ad rates via their Facebook page. Advertising opportunities now include classified ads too. Keep up with all the latest Grand Bahama news in the Nassau Guardian newspaper every Tuesday.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. Foundation. The Foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant and your company, The Foundation. Really being able to have a good conversation today. We got Dazzy the Demi in the house. Dazzy's in the house.
I'm here.
You're here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You've been here. We've been, listen, now I've gotten a couple texts to say, Howard, when are you going to bring Dazzy on? How are you going to bring Dazzy, right? I've done this for a long time. Ask Dazzy how much time I invited here. Talk to me.
Oh my goodness.
You
Are
ain't-
we
you
really
ain't
gonna bring
gonna
this
tell
up? We really gonna bring this
She ain't
up?
going to tell the people now.
No, I don't
okay,
want to
she ain't
tell
going
the
to look at me.
I don't want to tell the people.
You
now.
don't tell the people.
I don't want to tell the people. I'm
But
here now, though. Let's focus on that. Right?
I'm happy
There
that
we
you're
go.
here now.
Yeah, there we go.
And it's so wonderful to be able to have you now. If you're just tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, we're really being able to talk about sort of the course going forward for women and their contribution in this sort of I don't know whether or not we still call it women's suffrage, right? Based upon what we would have heard the Honorable Janet Boswick take on a position to be able to indicate that let's surmise it, what she said, and I'll look for the actual article to be able to talk about it, but she really kind of put it together in a nutshell to say that all these subgroups and subcommittees that you continue to be able to agitate for means nothing if you do not deal with the rights of women at the forefront and being able to ensure that we can rectify these things, that a woman has access, equal rights and opportunity in these particular areas, right? And I find that peculiar that a woman in our country would say that.
Why do you find it peculiar?
Because women voted against themselves the other day. Talk to me.
They did.
Women voted against themselves the other day. This
They did.
is a baffling thing to me. That you only remember your strength when it comes to your individual position. Listen, call the radio station 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit me up on the text 422-4796. Dazzy, let's just shoot the thing straight. Let's hit it right down the corner and right there.
It's funny you should talk about women voting against themselves. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. If a Bahamian woman right now has a child abroad and she's married, child's not a Bahamian, right? So the women's suffrage movement, yes, that meant we can vote, and we've achieved that. There's some other laws in the Bahamas that are against, women's best interests. I will admit to that. for example, divorce in the Bahamas, there's no such thing as irreconcilable differences, right? There has to be a fault. There's no such thing as no fault divorces. I believe that puts a lot of women in danger. I will admit that. Another thing is our medical system, right? And this starts to get now into more ethical and moral conversations, which I don't want to touch. But for example, a woman right now in the Bahamas in 2023, she's not able to just walk into a clinic and ask for an abortion, right? And that's a hot topic that people go crazy about in terms of, the ethical and moral implications of that. But when you have these conversations based on women's rights, you have to correlate them with what is presently being done in the US, which right now, a lot of the left is pushing a lot of narratives and not everybody agrees with it because you can see what the resulting effect of it is in the society. So we as the Bahamas, are our politics more on the left or more on the right? And then when you look at how we live, are we more on the left and the right? Because that's where I see the disconnect, Howard. And that's why these conversations get so confusing, because we will publicly proclaim one thing, but the stats and the data proclaim something else. So until we as a country correctly assess ourselves, not leaving out any sect of the society and what their role and contribution is going to be, that'll be the only way we can correctly have these conversations without it just being complete chaos. And then I don't want to ever leave out of this personal accountability as well, because I believe that that's a conversation that takes a lot of the burden off of government, Howard. Because if you have a high degree of personal accountability and self-actualization, you will change the government, because the government is basically only a sample of what comes out of us. So when you criticize what we see sitting up there, we criticize self. That is but a mirror image of a lot of the thoughts and narratives that we are encountering in daily life. So if we want what's up there to change, we need ourselves to change. And that's where it starts. So I don't like to have these conversations about what needs to change externally, because the greatest change is self. Because if you have boundaries of a certain type, Howard, it doesn't matter what somebody else comes to you with, because okay, this is against my boundaries. This is against the way how I see my life needs to run. Nobody can come to your household, the household of Howard Grant, that you make sure to protect and provide for, and give you narratives about what you're going to do. You can close the door, right? Same thing. So we have to correctly define what it is that we want from a self perspective before we go up to the top, while we have these conversations. Because if we don't do that, there's going to be no progress, or the progress is going to be extremely slow. So we have to get to that point. This is the age of Aquarius, right? We have to get to that point. Howard, fix your face, Howard. Fix your face.
Did you just say
I did say it. It is.
Age of Aquarius?
It is age.
Are you going to
Aquarius.
sing now? This is the Age of Aquarius. Go ahead.
So we have to get to the point where we are willing to have real conversations and not just what is politically correct if we're going to change some things. And that is the thing that a lot of us just don't want to do. We don't want to face, because it's ugly, right? You have to look at yourself in the mirror as a self and as country and say, this is who we are. And we may not like a lot of the things that we start to really see. So instead of us getting, upset about it, instead of us, thinking that marching is the answer, which in some cases it may be for visibility, we have to start to do some things now on a personal level in our households.
Let me take a telephone call, guys. You know what to do. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Hit me up on the text, 422-4796. Caller, on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for holding. Go ahead.
Great. Welcome back, Darcy. How you doing?
Hi. Good. Good to be here.
Yeah. My thing is, I was just having a discussion not too long ago, and I'm thinking the pendulum is now going too far to one side as relates to women pushing this. I mean, it's pushing women's rights, which is good, but I feel that they're pushing it too far to the point that they're leaving the young boys and teen boys behind. I think a good thing. It is a good thing to have gender equality, but not to the point that you have one gender now suffering. I hear all these discussions, and when it comes to, you don't even hear nothing but men's week or men's day or whatever. And if they do have it, it's probably a little byline in the newspaper, but nothing that how it is for women. And I have sisters or whatever, so I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. I'm saying you shouldn't let the pendulum swing so far, or like I think that you said over course correct, or you do it so much to the point that
correct.
Yeah, you do it to the point that you will leave another gender behind, and then we'll still be in the same a-hole or whatever you want to call it in the long run. But that's what I wanted to add. I mean, it's good to address women's rights, but it cannot be at the cost of leaving the young boys and men behind. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, man. Thank you for your contribution. I just want to be able to put clarity on that for 2 seconds, because even with Terrence, if you remember when Terrence was here, we did the International Day of the Men, Boys, and violence against men and boys, right? And also, so Keith Cox continues to be able to carry that over. And we've just had David Williams come on to talk about those things. So we try our best here at Guardian Radio 96.9, and more specifically here at the Foundation, to identify this well-rounded conversation of how we can be able to sort of see our society become more buoyant and float to the top, as opposed to this drowning that I feel that we've suffered over time.
See, what the caller is saying, I understand his perspective. You're going to need men to initiate the charge, because a lot of the women's rights and women's days and all of these are organized by women. You're just like how Terrence, rest in peace, Terrence, just like how he led the charge, you need men in the community to lead the charge. But here's the thing. Where do men see themselves in the community? Is it going to be a traditional view of masculinity where it's, God first, family second, to build, infrastructure, to promote healthy behavior, and to really, raise children in a way that is going to be productive? Or are the men in this society feeling that masculinity is just how many women that they can go ahead and sleep with, how many children they can just litter around, smoking, drinking? What is the view of masculinity?
Dazzy, you need to stop, okay?
No, what is the view?
Watch me.
What is the view?
We are victims, men and women.
What?
Yeah,
see, we were going so good. What time is it?
I know.
48 minutes in.
We got time. Watch me. We are victims of the social conditioning that indicates to us that masculinity exists at the end of this rainbow, right? The pursuit that we take is not a pursuit that we subscribe to as a result of what exists in us internally. Mm-hmm. Is what we subscribe to or run after as a result of the examples that are seen in our society on a day-to-day basis. I would be one to say that because I would have gone to school with so many young black boys, that aspirations are rich in them to be able to become strong black men. But, the real conditions that exist in society continues to bear down on that. And it's very hard to kind of see yourself indifferent or separated from what's happening externally. And that's a difficult thing, Dazzy.
It is a difficult thing.
For women also?
It is a difficult thing. And I agree with you. It is extremely difficult. And what's so sad about it, Howard, is within the first 7 years of a child's life, whatever that conditioning and whatever that blueprint is going to be, most people will not be able to escape that. So you have a cycle that's going to perpetuate itself. Only 2% of people in the entire population are going to be self-actualized. And it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with the other trappings and markers of success. It is the fact that there's a book that I always recommend. I'm not going to recommend it today. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But if you read that book, that so clearly describes. No, not that one. That's a good one as well. Okay. No, this one is by Napoleon Hill, right?
Yeah, you always talk about it.
Right. That is the blueprint. That is the blueprint that really shows you why we are where we are and what will be required to escape that. And until we get to that point where, like I said, the personal accountability is willing to happen to change the society, it's never going to change. Like it will never happen in our lifetimes. And that just is what it is. But I do want to shout out very quickly, because there are young men doing positive things. I want to shout out Isaac Barr from Andros, right? He is the Del Tech scholar. And he's doing amazing things. He sat in Youth in Parliament. He was on Guardian a couple weeks ago. He's doing amazing things. This is a bright young man. He's 17, I believe.
What did he do?
He's in UB now on a scholarship, right? And he's going to be in the journalism area. But this is a young man that stands against all of the narratives that are popular now, right? Intelligent, going to college, well-read, focused. And so the only people that are going to escape is the minority that have the critical thinking to assess a situation for what it is and say, hey, the media may say this, the music may say this, but the outcome is this. This is not what I want.
Watch me. Let's get wild with that again.
Okay.
When you start to talk about critical thinking, our society, even today, is not designed for you to be able to dive into critical thinking.
It's not. I agree.
We have been taught to regurgitate.
Right.
We
memorize.
have been taught to memorize.
Right.
To repeat what we've been taught. And as soon as you find yourself into critical thinking, then you become an outcast in these particular spaces.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's an unfortunate thing. Let's see if we can take a telephone call before we get out of here. Caller, you on the line with us live. Go ahead. Caller, you on the line with us live. Go ahead. Hello. Next caller. Caller, you on the line with us live. Go ahead. Hello. Are you on with us? Go ahead, caller.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Fine. Well, the foundation, that's the key word. I think the reason why we're having issues with these situations, that if you were to turn to the Bible and look exactly, see what the woman's position is, then I don't think we'll have a problem. Only those who do not want to abide by. That's the simple law of God. I think that's the issue. People just want to do what they feel like doing, and they ignore the word of God. That's a simple illustration. You know, God created Adam, and Eve came along as a helpmate, not the dominator, but she was a helpmate. But everybody just going off course and their rights and all this nonsense, you know. But if we stick with the word and the foundation, we will not have a problem. But it's a few of them, you know. A few of them who are getting all the headlines, maybe 2% of them, getting all the headlines, you know? And it's so sad.
Who's them? Let me hear them.
The women, those are they're fighting for all kind of rights. And the rights are right in the Bible. The rights are right there, but they want to do what they feel like doing, you understand me? And that's expected. And God said that you're going to have people who are going to defy the word of God. That's simple. So I'm not moved by them. I expect them to do that. They want rights for the animals, rights for this, the gay rights, the other rights, you know. And it's totally in the fight. It's totally defiant against the word of God. You know, and we should not accept that in the Bahamas.
Wow. Thank you, my brother.
The government should not accept it.
Wow. I appreciate your telephone call, my brother. Thank you so very kindly. It's difficult to say that, Dazzy. I know. Let's be decent, right? In the spirit of political correctness, let's just be decent, right? Anyway.
The points are convoluted. We have to dissect that at a later point. But the points are convoluted.
Let me read this. It says, bro, the problem is women have been deceived again into superseding her position. Example, they want to be pastors when the Bible clearly states that position is for males only. This is bananas. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dive into this conversation. Let's take this quick commercial break, get into news, and dive back into this conversation with Dazzy the Demi right here on the Foundation, 96.9 FM radio. We'll be right back after this.
The Foundation. The Foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation.
On your marks.
Carifta is almost here, and Alive has partnered with TCL for you to capture gold at the 2023 Carifta Games. Switch to Alive and get a free TCL 30 Plus or TCL 30 SE on select Alive postpaid plans to share pictures and videos of our Bahamian athletes as they hit the tracks to win gold. Visit your nearest Alive store or mobile van location and come gold with us at the 2023 Carifta Games.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go. because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation.
And we are back. Before we go to news, we just had to pay one or two bills, so I'm really appreciative for that. But we're diving into this conversation. I'm in the studio with Dazzy and really being able to chop these things down. Let me see if I can read one of these texts. Women always talk about the right to abort. Women can kill, literally, right? This is hashtag women can kill literally, right? This is what this thing says. That's what it says, right? It says, what if the young man wants the baby? Does the woman have the right to kill the man-child? Where does he get justice if she does not? If she does do it without the consent of the other party? These women like to have their cake and eat it too. Stop it. This is bananas.
See, here's the thing. And I hate to be idealistic in any capacity, Howard, but certain issues you will not have if you conduct certain boundaries and you live your life a particular way. It becomes a moot conversation. Now, I know not everyone is going to do that, but I don't like to give focus on issues, again, that happen as a result of a society that is not self-actualized and self-aware. I don't like to do that because what then happens is you begin to split hairs. The polarity jumps out, the left and the right, but what if this, but what if that, but what if nothing, right? What if we looked at ourselves as a part of a society that has its best interest at heart? Certain decisions we're just not going to make. And if we look at having our best interests at heart, we're not going to self-sabotage our best interests, no matter what that may be, in any capacity. And it will trickle up to legislation. It will trickle up to the level of the infrastructure in the country. It'll trickle up to a lot of the laws that govern the way how we live, the environment, the cleanliness of the environment, right? And what we constitute to be normal. So, as you may know, Howard, I don't like to put things in categories on air because I myself I can see both sides, left and right? But sometimes it becomes necessary in conversations like this because you cannot escape reality. So, for example, you may lean more to the left, and this is the definition of how the U.S. considers left and right. You may lean more to the left, but what is the result of what that's going to bring to your life? So you can choose, and you have the ability to choose, but what is going to be the outcome?
Now, I want to dive into that when we get back. We still have to take a break for 1 o'clock news. And I want to be able to talk to you about that because as I'm listening to the conversation, I want to be able to have a very clear understanding of where we are and where we're going. I have a lot of things kind of pop up in my head. And I don't want this to be a conversation that actually opposes the opposite sex. It's not about really being able to reject the ideas of others and saying that you should listen to me and this is why I'm right and so forth and so on. This has to be a conversation of finding commonality for growth and development because China popped up in my mind, right? And then the fact that there is a very clear idea of the preservation of society as opposed to your individual perspective and view of being able to perpetuate your family. So the overarching objective, even when persons are born into your family, is this is for China.
Right.
The question is this for the Bahamas? We're having a conversation whether or not this is for the Bahamas. Are you rejecting the children because this is for the Bahamas? Are you deciding to have your children because this is for the Bahamas? We don't have those conversations. We don't talk like that, right? The only thing that we can do is identify externally and say, well, why are these Haitians having so much children in the Bahamas? But where's your consideration for the Bahamas? Man, talk to me.
Ooh.
I just get deep, quick, fast,
We
boom.
definitely got to go to news.
Right? Let's go to news, right? 96.9
Definitely.
FM radio. Howard Grant, your company with the foundation, sitting here with Dazzy. Guys, get back after the news and kind of give us a call and dive into the conversation right after this.
The foundation. The foundation.
The foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The foundation. The foundation. The foundation. The foundation.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant and your company, the foundation, here chopping it down and having a beautiful conversation with you on this Monday, March 6th. If you're celebrating a birthday, we say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Enjoy
I have two
your
happy
birthday.
birthdays.
You got two birthdays?
Not today, but this week, right? So my best friend, I want to shout her out. Her birthday was yesterday.
Okay.
Gina Bartlett Roker. So happy birthday to you. She'd be so mad for calling her whole government name on this radio. But happy birthday to you.
Roker. Go ahead.
Right, the whole thing, Howard. Just so there's no mistake on who I mean, right? Right. So happy birthday to her and happy birthday to my daughter, Alia. She celebrated a birthday on the 3rd.
On the 3rd?
Yeah. So this week
my daughter's birthday is on the 16th.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. She's
some good people this month.
Yeah, and my wife's birthday is on the 12th.
Your wallet crying.
Essentially,
that wallet.
My wife was upset.
Why?
That my daughter was born in March because she felt like she had to share her birthday.
Yeah.
Now,
I agree. I agree with your wife.
She tried to be able to commandeer the whole month. I'm like, what are you doing?
No, your daughter clearly was trying to upstage her.
Excuse me, my birthday is not on one date. It's a whole month. And
right.
now it bleeds into the next month.
There you go.
So I was, okay, I'm not even going to fight you, right?
No, you don't.
I got a text here, guys. If you don't know, we're sitting in the studio with Dazzy today. Dazzy and I had a beautiful show here on Guardian a few years back. And we're so grateful to kind of do this again. Rush Hour with Howard and Dazzy. So we're very happy to be able to be here to kind of be able to have this conversation with you. Here's a text that came through. It says, Howard, I want to thank you for the invite to Tiki Bar Fridays. This is happy hour. I took my daughter there, and it was our first happy hour. Plus, I had to show her how young females should be treated on an evening. Byron was amazing. Once I said Howard, he said VIP, and it was on from there. We should return. Shout out to the female singer in the front also. It was amazing. Thank you again, sir.
I have to hail Byron. Of course. How could I not?
Remember.
Byron is good people. And shout out to Byron. Byron, how are you? I have to go and hail Byron very soon. You gotta
go. I tell you,
Byron is good people, very hospitable. And I remember Byron when he had his cooler. Okay, coming on the beach.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes.
So shout out to him.
And so
tremendous growth.
His support has been amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
he's good people.
And we really appreciate it, guys. Make sure you go down every Friday. It's going to be Tiki Fridays here on the foundation with Howard. We always want to be able to pay homage and commemorate, identify those persons who continue to support. If you want to be a part of that too, just at the top of the show, give me a call, 827-0111, 827-0111. We can make that thing happen for you. Well, Dazzy, now let's just dive back into what we were saying, because this conversation took me on a course to trying to identify whether or not we're putting the Bahamas first. You and I often have conversations, and I would say to you that, you know, in passing, when I see a younger lady and I say, oh, this is a handsome child you have here. Let's say she has one child. She bring the kids in the barbershop. Barbershop is sort of the domain for men. But she's in here and she's bringing her child here. And so all kind of questions pop up in men's mind. Where this boy daddy is. But we don't say it out loud. And so we engage in conversation. Well, you know, I is getting people business quickly, right? So I say, this is a handsome little boy. Yeah, how much do you have? Mister, what you want me to do with them rest of them children? Eat them, eh? I can't. Very clearly. And so my question is whether or not the idea for preservation is personal or is it national? It's a strong question that I have.
I have an answer for that.
Let me hear it.
The answer to all of these different conversations, they all come down to a common thread. And the common thread and the basis of what is going to actually make change and make it be everlasting and thorough is embodiment. That word, embodiment. So embodiment is basically what you say aligning with what you do and you actually being the change you want to see, right? You live in that every single day. It's more than just projecting on what other people should do. Because I'm a great fan of the Stoics. I don't know if you follow the Stoics, Diogenes and Seneca and all those. I love the Stoics and a lot of what they talk about and what they represent. Marcus Aurelius, he was fantastic, right? He was basically the embodiment of Christian principles, even though ironically he went to persecute them later, right? But his life, he was the embodiment. And so that's what it requires. It requires every single person to say, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my legacy, for my children. And the country will benefit because I'm doing this for me. And that way it's a seamless integration of more so, I don't want to criticize China because it's very important that they have a national vision for what it is that they do. But at the same token, a lot of their citizens don't have the freedom and the ability to make certain choices for themselves.
Country.
So it's right.
Country.
Yes, I'm not pro, that aspect. But one thing I will say that they guard very carefully, if you use TikTok, what the Western world sees in the feed of TikTok is completely different from what you see if you're in the Eastern part of the world, right? So they serve their citizens more so, educational content, right? They serve them content that is going to make them aspire to be the best that they can be and all that they can be. What is being served up in the Western world is, foolishness, dancing, fighting, arguing, a lot of pop culture. It's very different. So I believe that the government does have a responsibility to shape society based on where they want them to go. But it's a delicate balancing act because you don't also want to remove and impose on rights. So it's a fine act, especially because of where we are geographically. We're so close to the U.S., right? So we definitely want to take cues from them. But at the same token, you do want to preserve your own identity and what you want for your nation. But how does that compromise financially what the country is able to participate in as well? Because all of these different narratives work well. But when you come down to access for your citizens into another country and countries that are larger and have more financial and, just ability based on the sheer size of what their GDP is to put certain restrictions, sanctions, and pressure, how then do you preserve where you want to go, the culture, as well as to not necessarily offend or go against the narratives that are suggested? You see, so it requires diplomacy. It requires critical thinking. It requires, a lack of very, very strong ideals that are not necessarily going to get the end result that you want. So I do not envy the position a lot of times that governments are in, because it is a very difficult position to kind of look at all of these plates balancing and to say at the end of the day, okay, what is going to be the best case scenario, not only for our citizens, not only for the future, but also to maintain the diplomacy that is going to be required for us to effectively traverse the world, do trade, and to make sure that our GDP doesn't fall. It's very difficult.
So essentially what we have to do is water down our convictions and position, right? And then watering down, because let me tell you why. The preamble speaks more specifically in this nation to our commitment and faith in Christianity, our commitment and faith to the supremacy of God. But as we look down at our Bibles and have a conversation internally, as we lift our heads and our governments have conversations with G7 nations and world powers, first world powers, they continue to be able to morph their position and how we should be viewed by being able to have a conversation that is more inclusive. That's not traditionally who we are. That's not traditionally where we stand as a country. And because our citizens continue to be able to hear our governments flip-flop on positions, then they would say to themselves, well, I could be able to take on a position. And plus we have conditioning from the same TikTok that you talk about. My only position is this, Dazzy. Let's just talk about this as it relates to women, as it relates to children, as it relates to the next dispensation and leadership for this country. There needs to be an overarching agenda that's being able to be, we need a reconditioning, a very clear reconditioning in our country through education, through social commitment, and other aspects that says this is where the Bahamas needs to be. This casual conversation about the National Development Plan and all these other things don't have the oomph, the bite, the teeth that can be able to reform the minds of our children. We need to be able to help them to understand this is where we want the country going forward. Talk to me about it.
So again, I believe that embodiment is the answer. We don't necessarily have to broadcast every single thing, but if the citizens are living a particular way and maintaining a certain standard of living, right? And maintaining certain morals and values within their own households, that goes a long way over what is said. Because as it is being said right now, we as a nation may proclaim certain things, right? And having certain stances on certain topics. But the reality of how we live doesn't necessarily match up with that. And that's what I'm saying. There's a disconnect. So you cannot have a disconnect, refuse to take self-accountability as a nation, and then get angry when the external views are matching how a lot of Bahamians are currently living. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is insanity. That is madness, right? So we have to get to the point where we be real with ourselves. We look in the mirror and we're able to face what is going on internally with us as a nation and also individually. Because again, what is in government is reflecting what is coming out of us. The governments are not, and I love to hear when we speak as a people about the government, as if it's like an alien ship that came in and just dropped a smattering of men and women and put them there. Where did they come from? They are our brothers, cousins, husbands, uncles, wives, daughters, mothers. They are from us. So what is being reflected, right? And the permanent secretaries, they're from us. That's people, auntie, uncle, cousin. They're from us. So there's no separation.
The supersession or the superseding of where. Okay, let's go back to the core of the conversation, the beginning of the conversation.
Yes.
Women's suffrage,
women's
majority
places.
rules,
Yes.
so forth and so on. Last week or so, we had a conversation. We're just talking about this, right? I can't say that I'm confused about it. I have a determined and a convicted position about this concept and idea of majority rule.
Yes.
I believe that we as a people, we've been infused with this idea of independence and strength. When you go back and look at before women's suffrage movement, when you go back to prior to the Burma Road riot, and you'd identify that this was a project that persons were doing, and they were working hand in hand with foreigners, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder with foreigners, and the foreigners was getting paid more.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of them getting paid more, this kind of disruption happened within themselves and say, well, how the hell this could possibly happen? These people doing the exact same thing and getting paid more than us. Something has to change in this country. Boom. Burma Road riot, tribulation, issues, concern, Black Tuesday, all of this birthed this idea of liberation simply because numerically, demographically, we could see there was more of us than them. Simple. There was more of us than them. And as a result of that, there had to have been a shift of leadership that says we should be in a position to own our own thing. Simultaneously, there was this thing happening in the monarch, where all the Commonwealth of countries recognized that they should separate themselves also. This was happening globally. Watch me, Dazzy. And as a result of that, we as Bahamians, internally in this country, fought for majority rule. We won that. We fought for women's suffrage and the right for women to vote. We won that. We were given this sort of an idea, well, would you consider independence? And we accepted this position. So we have interdependence, not necessarily the independence that we fought for.
Right.
My point to you. As a result of this genuflecting and taking on this position, we don't have the strength and determination to make that next step. Women stopped fighting for their position after women's suffrage. Well, we could vote now, it's okay. But they've stopped there. It didn't take 20 years after Mary Ingram and her contribution that we saw Janet Boswick in her position. And after we saw Janet Boswick, most recently we would have seen Loretta Turner Butler take on a position to fight. And as soon as she stood up in the FNM convention to be able, I don't want to get into politics with you, I just simply say it. As soon as she stood up to be able to talk about these things, the men turned catgut and be able to leave her stranded in this point, to the point where she has rejected the idea of contributing politically in this country anymore.
Because there's a personal cost, Howard. So we cannot have these conversations without the personal cost. So women in government, what is going to be the personal cost for them? And that's financially, socially,
but the personal cost
romantically, financially. What is the cost?
The personal cost. Dazi, watch me. guys, give me a call. The personal cost would always come when you have to go the fight alone. The women's suffrage was not a fight that you went alone. The women's suffrage was a collective of identifying talents and putting them together, sewing them together towards an objective. And after you would have gotten that objective, you dispersed.
So I want to say something, Howard. I want to interject, and I, you know what? I'm not going to say what I was originally going to say. I cannot get canceled on this radio today, but I will say this.
Nobody can cancel.
I will say, you'd be surprised. I will say this. That gives into the notion that women are going to unite, right?
Ooh,
that gives into the notion, because I can tell you a lot of my experiences. No, it is what it is, Howard. And I'm going to speak reality today, right? Because you have to have certain, okay. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You got people in the red. You got people, a little bit in the middle. A nation that is in the red, or people that are in the red, is very dangerous to unite with them, because their pursuit of climbing that ladder will render you being damaged or a victim of their pursuits, just because it is a self-focused notion. So you tend to have women uniting better when a lot of their basic needs are met. A lot of women in the Bahamas, their basic needs may be met in a particular standpoint, but they're not in other ways. And so the unity of that happening, from what I've seen, has been very fractured in a lot of different sectors in terms of the longevity of it, because it's competitive and comparative, right? So you only see it in little isolated silos, but I don't see the ability for that to happen on a mass scale compared to what it used to be, because the needs were less for a society back then.
Are you unable to unite, or are you unwilling?
It isn't a matter of unable or unwilling. It is not wisdom.
Ooh,
it is not wisdom in today's day and time to sacrifice personal goals in pursuit of unity for a representation.
I will give you an example about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to.
It's not wisdom.
When I was at the hotel.
Yes.
And there was a transition between, guys, give me a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit me up on the text, 422-4796. Now, when I was at the hotel, right here, it was initially the Sheraton. You heard this story many times. It was initially the Sheraton, and we transitioned over to Malia. There was a purchase, and in this kind of a transitionary period, they had to identify who they wanted in certain spaces. Because many of us have never dealt with a Mexican company like this, they had certain concepts, ideas of how they rule their organization, how they govern their organizations.
Right.
So we felt like we went back significantly to a time of slavery, and there were overlords in many instances, in many respects. With lack of respect for persons, with being able to infringe upon their personal rights, going out and writing persons' name to see what type of cars they have. It was just too much. It was, what the hell are these people doing? It was too much. It was way too much. It was too much. And they would ask you questions like, well, how did you afford this car? What are you talking about? Where do you think we live?
Wow.
Right? So there was a lot of these things that we were dealing with, right?
Some jealousy there too.
So as a result of that, we as a people, headed by one person that right? So I said, why don't we write this sort of a concept down? Why don't we write these things down and try to be able to present this to the government? Try to be able to present this to these other spaces, right? And as I go around to other persons, they would have said, "Oh, Howard, I don't know if I want to write that because my personal goals and my children off to school and this, that, and other." I said, "But y'all are not thinking. Does it getting somewhere with you? Let's get preachy quickly.
Go ahead.
You know this, right?
Go ahead.
I said, child, I don't know about this, Howard, so forth and so on. Anyway, Howard gets dismissed, fired.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the unceremonious discharge, like how former Prime Minister Perry Christie would talk about it. But I got paid.
Okay.
I had been there for 1 year. And because of my impassioned pursuit, my articulation, my insight of how to be able to do these things, these people pay me for the 1 year that I've been there as though I've been there for many. Talk to me, Dazzy. Watch me.
That's
watch
powerful.
me. Watch me.
That's
People
powerful.
who've been working to the hotel for 26 years, the entire hotel shut down, they still calling me today.
Wow.
They ain't get paid yet. Dazzy, my point
Wow.
to you is that if there is not an agenda, an overarching agenda to realign ourselves with getting back to who we are, your personal goals and pursuits mean nothing when the entire organization, the entire country, the Constitution, and everything else collapse around you.
This is true, but it also, see, here's the thing. Your example, right, was based on you having the mindset that, hey, I'm going in this direction. You can come with me if you want, but if you do not come, I'm going anyway, right? And so when I say that is not wisdom, it is only, we live in a financial world. It is what it is. The Bahamas does not have certain catch-alls or safety mechanisms to dive into certain pursuits without the security of finances. So for example, if you were to go and protest somewhere, you lose your job, we do not have the social safety net to go ahead and, claim unemployment in a significant matter that will allow
That's
you to
what I
live
like these
comfortably.
conversations. Drees. You know I like these conversations.
It is what it is,
I
right?
like these conversations.
It's true.
Because the truth is, it's not that Howard Grant has this objective and say, you either with me or you're against me. There is a specific course that we have trod, that we have gone through, that years of tribulation and commitment by men and women that have passed on, who have sacrificed for us to get to this point, and we forgot about those things. And all I'm saying, let's realign ourselves with those objectives and the agenda to get ourselves to, let's call it Bahamianization, right? And you rejected that because your comfort. And then I just told you, if we don't do that, we're going to lose the entire thing.
You know where a lot of our strength comes from? The same Bahamians that would have fled, that brain drain, that now have the financial means, the leverage, and the geographical spread around the world that are the brightest of us and the best of us in a lot of circumstances. Not to say that we don't have that here, but we have a lot of Bahamians externally, all over the world, doing some amazing things.
But they only
Do you
feel
have
their
to be-
empowerment after they step out into international
Because
waters.
guess what, Howard? You can sometimes be a better Bahamian outside of the Bahamas
Oh
than
my
you can
God,
be
guys, you're
here.
getting deep today.
It is what it is.
You're getting deep
It
today.
is what it is.
Guys, give me a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit me up on the text, 422-4796. Let's take a caller. Carly on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Hey, Howard.
Hey.
I hope you're listening, you know.
I listening.
No, you ain't listening.
Go ahead.
The lady is telling you that the issue for a female, and this is regardless of how high she gets in the pecking order, the issue for her is security. And because of that small fact, females, by their very nature, tend to be more territorial than men. Okay? Now, a female with a lot of money will make a better leader than a man with a little bit of money. Because she has nothing to be concerned about outside of what her prime calling in life is. Now, her prime calling in life, not to lead. But no man in this world is going to get anywhere in life except there's a strong, determined woman behind him or by his side. Now, the politicians, the pastors, all the managers, they know that they can, depend on who? They're female workers. They're female party members. They're female church members. But we got to try to get this thing straightened out in terms of what men are supposed to be doing in this country. Our guys are getting soft. And hey, listen, what you do, listen to this again after you go home, okay?
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate your telephone call, man. Thank you so much for your contribution. Dazzy, but talk to me, Dazzy.
Kamala Harris.
Huh? Kamala Harris?
Yes. Vice President of the United States.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we're not going to talk about her politics, how she leans left or right. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about her dynamic, right? She is a married woman with a child, right? She has the financial security, the protection, and the backing of a husband that's going to allow her a certain platform. If you want to see more women in the Bahamas, in a place where they are comfortable to take the country in a standpoint that is in a particular direction that is going to improve, especially because statistics have shown women in politics obviously improve conditions socially in a country all the time, right? Look at the president of New Zealand, exactly. Prime Minister.
Don't deviate. I'm waiting for the end of this. Let me hear it.
It is going to require
okay
them to have the security.
Hold on.
And the protection.
Break that down for all us. What you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is one of the reasons that more women are not represented in certain spaces, including the media.
Because they're married?
It's not because they're not married necessarily. It's not the marriage. It is the protection and the security to be protected away from certain elements and to have the ability to be out of the survival mode of actually trying to create that for themselves to be able to speak. It is what it is. And I'll tell you that even from a media standpoint, Howard.
No. You right today.
From a media standpoint as well.
I can't even fight you.
Right.
Dazzy, I can't even fight you.
You know the energy it takes?
No, I can't even fight you. That was heavy what you did
to
just
make
now.
$15,000 a month, $20,000 a month?
You blew my mind just now.
I hope I did.
You did.
Let's scrape it off the floor.
You did.
Right here.
Right? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Put it on the table.
I'll put it back later. Because it is true.
Yeah.
It is true.
Yeah.
And it is most definitely difficult because whilst we're having this conversation, the beginning of this conversation with Mary Ingram and how she even could be able to identify these persons to move forward is because her husband had just vied for a position and he lost.
Yeah.
And he said in 1949 that I would have won if women could have voted.
Right.
And because she had the support of a man who obviously was financially secured and in a good position, she could pursue certain aspects of things. When we hear about Janet Boswick, in her particular capacity, she had support of not only a financially secured man, but also politically savvy, that he could support her navigating these particular things. So you're saying to me, despite a woman's articulation and her strength, if she doesn't have the backing and support in these particular areas, she won't step out into this water.
But she can, but it'll be very difficult for her. And I'll tell you why on a couple levels. And I'm going to take it a step further. Not only having the backing of a man, but a man who's secure enough in his ego and who has the financial ability to allow her to be in that platform without weaponizing on her the inadequacies he may feel of seeing his woman in competition with him. So it takes a particular kind of man as well.
Did a lot today.
We're going to take it a step further because it requires that. So it requires a man that's actually self-actualized. He can have money, right? That's fine. But if he has the money and he's not self-actualized and he's not self-aware, she will still not do it.
They still can't find the support in the grouping, in the block of women. They can't find that support.
A lot of women are looking for security themselves. So the woman, again, okay, let me give you an example. Let's just say you have a woman that has all of that, right? With her. But the man that she's with is not self-actualized, right? But he has the money to provide her the platform, the political savvy, but he's not self-actualized. What do you think is going to happen when she puts herself in the public eye? The same women she's trying to help and unite with, while she's out there with a microphone in her face, they could be passing by the house because that is the nature. I just tell how it is what it is. Do you want to have a reality conversation, or are we going to pretend that is not the reality? It is the reality.
You come cutting up with the people, man.
Come on now. This is a nation of sweetheart.
Listen,
let's be real about this. Howard, let's be real.
Darcy, you need to stop it. Let's take a telephone call. Call you on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Good morning, Ms. Howard Grant.
Hey, what's happening?
And your guest.
Hey, what's up?
Howard Smoke here. Howard, do you get some texts from me from time to time?
Oh,
yeah, I get some texts from you from time to time.
All right, Howard. Let's get some. Give me a quick chance to get at this this conversation, because for the life of me, I don't understand why, to this date, a woman ain't running this country yet, you know. Because from a child, Howard, I send you some stuff. You know what I'm working on right now, Howard. I know you're quite aware.
I see it.
You see it. Howard, let me tell you something. I grew up in a home with a mother that was, at a young age, she was a school teacher at Sacred Heart Catholic Church on Shirley Street. From there, she moved to become a secretary, working for the Texaco company, Mr. A.B. Malcolm, married my father, and so forth. She died at 46 years old, very young. When she died, she left 2 homes in the Centerville area on 2 main streets, Madera Street and East Avenue, Centerville, to corner by where Bahamas Battery and Tire. 2 big homes for her children. And she died at 46. She worked 2 jobs. At the hospital at night as a switchboard operator, and in the day at Mr. A.B. Malcolm as a secretary to Texaco gas station. She was also a very young woman in 1958, was the one that gave Gus Cooper and the Valley Boys their first sponsorship to start the Valley Boys. As 17-year-old young boys got together to go to Bay Street when it was taboo, when police used to arrest you for disturbing the peace. They started the Valley Boys in 1958, December, with the help of my mother as the first sponsor. And look what Junkanoo has grown to today, an international cultural event that the Ministry of Tourism now takes control over and makes millions of dollars. A woman in the Centerville area. And God also blessed all the other women that allowed their young sons to join that group, to go with Gus Cooper and them to turn Junkanoo with Wooler, and Gus Cooper turned it into a woman. When you go to church every Sunday morning, the church is full up with women, with all kind of children, filling up the pews with a few men up on the altar and dragging all kind of children and a very few men, husbands in the church. A woman, when you go in most offices around here, they operating from the switchboard to the secretary of the big-time boss, practically running the office. A woman, when you go around political parties, at the campaign in the park, in the office and the PLP headquarters and the F&M headquarters, women flood the floor. But when it comes time to vote for somebody, a woman don't want to vote for another woman. A woman always, for some reason, don't trust another woman to lead her. She want a man. She want a man to be her priest. She want a man to be a political leader. She even want a man to be her doctor. Why can't a woman run the country when they run everything else? When you wake up in the morning as a little boy, your old man get his bath, brush his teeth, go to work. When you wake up in the morning, your old lady done cook breakfast, done bathe you, done put clothes on you, send you up to school, be there to help you with your homework, while your old man out with the boys drinking beer. A woman been running the world from me knew it. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, my Sparky. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. Give us a call, 326-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Let's take a quick commercial break and be right back after this.
The Foundation.
The Foundation. We'll be back right after this.
The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Guardian Radio and the Foundation are on the move.
Bahamas, this one's for you.
SBT, Small Business Thursdays. Every Thursday, the Foundation with Howard Grant will highlight small businesses throughout the country, far and wide. Your products, services, prices, and personality. We want to hear it all. Get your 30 or 60-second advertisement heard on air at a fraction of the cost. We here at the Foundation understand the times and don't want you to be left behind. With Guardian Radio, you reach your specific demographic and it is unmatched.
We reach thousands daily.
Get your products off the shelf and your services in their hearts. Small Business Thursdays with the Foundation, only on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. For more information, call 302-2300 or the Help Me Howard line at 827-0111. SBT. Small Business Thursdays. Get your business moving today.
Divania's grilled food and products are now open in the Kenneth Plaza, Prince Charles Drive. Come, you must try their jerk chicken, jerk pork, and all their amazing grilled food. Grilled daily to perfection, using all their amazing sauces made right here in the Bahamas. Divania's, grilling good food for life. Call or WhatsApp Divania's today at 817-4468.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant, the Foundation. The time just slipped away from us. I can't believe that we're almost at the 2 o'clock hour. And we've been having such a good conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting in here with Dazzy. You know Dazzy the Demi. She's being able to chop it down with us today. And we're just really having a conversation about contribution and women's position in our society in terms of moving forward. Please give us a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit us up on the text 422-4796. Let's take a telephone call. Calling on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Howard. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. What's happening with you?
I'm on this great. Good afternoon, Daz.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm Howard. I will make one or two comments. With Sparky normally be 90% right all the time. That's the same man to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
you gone?
Aye.
Oh, you still here?
No, this is a different caller.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. How you doing, my brother? What's good?
Hi.
Call back.
Good, Mr. Grant, and to your guest, Dazzy.
Hi.
Long time no hear, Dazzy.
Yes. Hi.
Always a pleasure, But listen, all of that stuff that Sparky just talked about and stuff, doesn't it say that women is in power, women runs the country? I mean, because if you really look at it, everything he's saying, women is in leadership position. You had Cynthia Mother Pratt, who was the deputy prime minister, who served as acting prime minister. She ran the country. And if you come down to recent days, you have the Honorable Glenys Hanna Martin, who has been acting prime minister a number of times, So, I mean, women are running the country. I think women, are in strategic places all around the world, and we have to accept that women have the ability to lead, that women can lead, and in most cases when we do allow them to lead, things work out fairly well. So I can't accept the fact that people are saying women are not in because they're not actually sitting in the seat of the Prime Minister that women are not in leadership, because women are, when you go into our schools, whether educators, they are mostly women. Very few men you find in school, who are principals or who are in leadership role and everything. So for me, women are leading, and they're on top. So, I mean, what is it that we are trying to get at? That women are not in leadership? Yeah, of course they're in leadership, and they lead in every aspect of life. So, that's my 5 cents.
Thank you so much, my brother. I do appreciate your telephone call.
So I just want to say this. And here's the thing about these conversations, right? When you talk about leading, I agree with a lot of what the caller said. I think a lot of the society focuses on optics as well, right? So we look at what may be the reality, we look at the optics of something, et cetera, et cetera. The definition of a helpmeet or a helpmate is to influence decision-making without being the one to necessarily strike the gavel, right? And so I think the disconnect comes for a lot of persons where, Sparky said that, women want to vote for men. Men want to vote for men. It's also true that men tend to respect men more than they respect women in certain positions, right? So the goal for the society is to have strong men in leadership, right? That are assisted by women to be in certain positions. That is basically the ideal for the eastern side of the world, right? The western side of the world looks at, okay, women actually being the ones leading. But in all of this, there's a separation and the having of a gender war. So you have, if you especially go on social media, men against women, women against men. When you look at the Black community, that's its own level of drama. And so it is the separation and the lack of unity of both genders that lead to a lot of chaos and in a lot of cases.
Let me read this little piece, Darcy. I want to be able to interject this. We started off with being able to talk about what the charge of the affair really being able to speak about over in Grand Bahama on March 2nd to 3rd. And I just want to take an excerpt from what she said. She said, it was progress when 7 Bahamian women were elected to parliament during the Bahamas' last election. So it was really big, not a monumental victory, because men still got elected 4-1 compared to women. But it was progress. And it showed that little by little, Bahamian women are starting to take the political power they deserve. And that word is very important because no one gives political power. You got to take it.
Well, that's true. That's like in anything in life, right? You have to take it. Acquisition is not a lot of times going to be voluntary. And so if you see yourself as a victim, usually you're not going to get what you want to get. Now, here's the thing. If you want, back to my original point of wanting women in spaces that have more leadership tied to them, the embodiment also helps to influence the culture. So you know how women can lead? Women can lead by controlling access to their person, right? So if the standard of a woman is this particular thing before I be involved with a man. So if women say, well, I'm not going to engage with anyone that is not a leader or doesn't hold certain morals and principles, right? That is a form of control. It doesn't necessarily require ascending to a leadership position that is more visible, So there's control that is overt and there's control that is covert. And so until women in society decide which methodology they want to live their lives by and not live a life that's basically dictated by what is the most popular social media narrative of the time, that's when you're going to see actual change. Because even in countries in the East that quote unquote may not have women in certain positions of leadership, a lot of the women control those households to a very high degree, and they are extremely assertive in terms of the protection of women and what it requires to have access to these same women. And so I believe that as globally we become more connected and we kind of see what's happening on both sides, we can cherry pick what is the best methodology of the East as well as what is the best methodology of the West. So we have to remain in the middle and put it together as a combination
over the next 50 years.
over the next 50
Over
years.
the
We
next
should
50
chart our
years.
course.
I like this, Dazzy.
But if it's there's nothing wrong with a man being in leadership. But if he has to be, the best case scenario is for him to be a very self-actualized man that has the moral compass and the values that is going to steer a country in a particular direction. And I'm not talking about our country. I'm just saying in general. That is the best case scenario. And that inherently is what people want and what they want to vote for.
Let me read this text. It says, good afternoon. I'm a 71-year-old, and I just love to hear your guests. I used to follow her when she had her morning show. She's so smart and intelligent.
Thank you.
We need women like her in politics.
Why you had to read that last?
I just had to read it. I just hey.
If I get married, Howard, to a man with that type of backing and access, I will run. Okay? How about that? Before that, I will not. And for all the reasons that were mentioned. Okay? It is what it is.
Any female in politics who is in survival mode is a very dangerous person.
It's true.
This is the information, right?
It's true.
The text says the text says, I like her already. And then it says, I like Dazzy. She is talk a lot of sense most days. But today, she just talk a load of mess. Men are victims of violence. Right, Dazzy? I gotta read this thing. Men are victims of violence more than anyone else. We, me, the production and support, etc. That we need, that we have, and then pass on to the women and family we choose to make them. That's nonsense. You're making your own. I don't understand that.
Who's conducting the violence against the men?
Right?
Other men or women? That's an internal issue. Y'all need to huddle as boys and discuss that, right? That has nothing to do with us.
Women are worthy of praises, but this world is a man's world. God looked upon everything and said it was good, acknowledging men as leaders on all of the earth. We are moving away from God's word, and when we do that, we will see exactly where that takes us. A woman is a helpmate. Ooh, y'all, let's get sharp and hard and fast quickly. Let's take a quick commercial break and be right back after this.
The foundation. The foundation.
At Popeyes, get the chicken sandwich you love, but make it blackened. Marinated in Popeyes blackened seasoning, that is. Our new juicy filet is fried to perfection without the breading, served on a toasted brioche bun. Try it today as a combo or a la carte. Don't forget to choose your level of spice today at any one of our 3 locations.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation. 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 The foundation.
And we are back. Last few minutes of the show, ladies and gentlemen. 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant in your company with the foundation. Sitting in studio with my very good friend Dazzy. The Demi is in here. She's just chopping it down.
I'm here.
Kind of blew my mind today, Dazzy.
Yeah.
I'm just being able to surmise why women won't thrust themselves forward because of lack of security. because of lack of these elements necessary to ensure that we're fortified with every other area that's important for us to kind of move forward. That blew my mind today. And then just kind of deducing it based upon the women that ran prior, even with the women's suffrage movement in the United States of America, they were supported by their husbands.
Men respect men. Okay, Howard. You know what a lot of men say when they approach? They say, "You married?" They don't say. That's what they want to know. Do you have the protection of a man? Right? When I was on the radio years ago, and I had certain issues with, being followed. Let me call it that. You know what the police would say? You don't have a husband? Where's your man? So the society may say a lot of things, but inherently men tend to respect men. And that's for business as well. Any woman in entrepreneurship in the Bahamas can tell you the matter of times that when they've tried to do certain pursuits.
What do we do to fix this, Dazzy? What do we do to really empower women without giving them this superficial empowerment to say that you're empowered, you can vote, but, as it relates to being able to acquire anything else, when you go down to...
You're not going to like this answer,
when
Howard.
you go down to get your car fixed, we're going to charge you more unless you have a man.
You're not going to like this answer.
When you go to get a quote to fix your house or whatnot, you know what I'm saying?
You're not going to like this answer.
Really fix it? Let me hear
You're not
it
going to like this answer. So it depends the beauty of what feminism was supposed to be. And I'm not pro third wave, fourth wave, any other wave feminism.
Because I'm going to read this text.
I'm not pro that. I lean more to the right. I like conservative, traditional. I'm more on that side, right? But every woman is going to have to decide which path they're going to take in life and what it is that they want to do. The optimal path for one woman may not be the path for another, but you have a choice. If you decide that you're going to go the route of trying to fix a lot of ills and put yourself out there and do a lot of the fighting in front line, you realize that it's going to come with some drawbacks, right? So for a lot of women, it's just a matter of them deciding to choose what it is that they want to do. But I will tell you, there's nothing that's more natural and gives people a lot of joy than observing men that are self-actualized in leadership positions, even if you just follow them on YouTube. So to give you an example. So I like to follow a guy called Alex Hormonzi, right? He lives in the U.S., extremely masculine. He has a lot of ideas about self-actualization and health and business. It's a pleasure to watch him speak and to command certain attention because he is giving a lot of persuasion to men coming up, right? In a healthy way, not in that red pill extremism, they need to go to therapy, I hate women way, but in a healthy way that is going to actually benefit the society. Ed Milet, he's another example of that. David Goggins, he's another example of that. So you have men in society, Miles Monroe was another example of that. You have men in society that have that, right? And so it's just a deciding factor on where you personally, who you're going to give your attention to, who you're going to tune into, and who you're going to allow to influence the way that you live your life. That's all that is. But the worst thing that a woman can do is attach herself to a man without vision and leadership that is going to take her into a direction that she doesn't necessarily want to go. And so it just requires women to be self-aware of outcomes and not just what people say, but what their life is reflecting and what they want for themselves personally. And once you have that organized internally, the temptation to go otherwise will pretty much diminish.
Dazzy, this was a great show. I enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're 2 minutes out of here. Let me read this. Let me read this text. He says,
oh boy.
I want her number. I have a friend with money.
I never said anything about money, though. I never said anything about money.
I gotta read the people text. I gotta read.
It is a component, but I never said
I gotta read the text. And this is the last one here like this. It says, leadership is a masculine pursuit. If you want a woman in a position of leadership, you will see that they exhibit overt masculine behavior. In contrast, their husbands or partners are typically men who are feminized.
Only
this
in the
is
West.
Bananas.
Only in the West, Howard.
Not
in the East.
I agree with this also.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the show for today. I want to thank you so much for being able to tune in. Dazzy, I thank you so much for being able to be here today.
It's been good to be here.
Man, I enjoyed this so
I really
very
did.
much. Tomorrow, we're going to have the professor in studio. We're going to have a conversation about our constitutional position
Excellent.
to find out whether or not there is a true sense of commitment commitment whether or not we should have a true sense of commitment to this Constitution, if it was designed for us, or should we just yield sort of our strength to that? We're going to have a good conversation tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. Dazzy, my dear, thank you so very kindly, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for tuning in. This is 96.9 FM Radio. Howard Grant and your company, The Foundation. I stick and stay for Z Live with Shivago Lang right after this. Have a good day, guys.
The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. The Foundation. Foundation.